Hey there, Lucid back in touch again. What are your first impression about Uzbekistan? Let's start with that.
I'm trying to take back your stoplight system. The counter on there is amazing.
I think people are just starting to understand how big the Uzbek community really is, especially in the United States.
Once we get a customer, it's more important to me to keep that customer.
You're not going to use Microsoft Paint. You're going to use Photoshop. Why? Because you're professional.
Hear back from your customers. What they requesting much right now?
A common day-to-day, hey, we got a new customer that needs this.
We can't predict how other products are going to interchange with our product.
Run that whole process without a dispatcher having to be involved.
Elon Musk release first electric truck. What's going to be tomorrow with the dispatchers?
The problem is a lot of people are dumping money into these things and they're running out of money.
So that's kind of hard for us because we try to schedule trainings back to back and we're like, all right.
Assalomu alaykum hurmatli YouTube kuzatuvchilari va obunachilari. Lucid Logistics Academy tomonidan yangi proyekt Lucid Talks nomli podkast yo'lga qo'yildi. Bugungi mehmonlarimiz Amerika Qo'shma Shtatlarining DitatTMS kompaniyasining vakillari bugun bizga mehmonga kelishdi. Bugun biz logistika haqida, tracking haqida va boshqa mavzular haqida gaplashamiz. Albatta, ko'rsatuv oxirigacha qoling. Va albatta kommentlarda like qoldirish esdan chiqmasin. Eslatib o'taman, bu podkastimiz to'liq ingliz tilida bo'lib o'tadi. Shuning uchun agar kim ingliz tili yomon bo'lsa, vocabulary yoki translator olinglar. Hey there, Lucid back in touch again. Welcome to Lucid Talks. My name is Ben or Bakhtiyor. I'm a co-founder of Lucid Logistics Academy. We have Sunnatullah. Nickname is Steve. He's a founder. He's online. Since he's in Chicago, Illinois right now. So, Steve, are you with us?
Hey guys, yes, I'm here. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Great. This is our first podcast, new project. Our project is aimed to share some experience, insights from experts in trucking and logistics in the United States of America. So we invite different experts from different fields in trucking business. This is our main goal, to share, to have more information about trucking business and logistics. So I guess I need to tell you a little bit about the project as well. Today's debut podcast with our valued guest from United States of America. They are presenting TMS software, trucking management software, DitatTMS, Eric Williams, and Josh Tornington. Eric Williams, he is the director of sales, and Josh Tornington is senior application specialist. Eric, Josh, welcome to Uzbekistan.
Thank you. Appreciate having us here.
Yeah.
What is your first? What are your first impression about Uzbekistan? Let's start with that.
I mean, so the first impression, obviously, we got here at 2 a.m. in the morning, which is tough after a long flight and stuff. And there is a multitude of people that are waiting for us, trying to figure out a way to make it as easy as possible for us to get to our hotel. And then, of course, we get to the hotel and everybody's like, hey, get cleaned up. Let's go out to eat. I'm like, is anybody open still? Like, oh, yeah. This is the trucking industry. People are still open. And, it was just unbelievable to see that people cared enough to go out of the way just to make sure that it was easy for us and that we're fed. Mm-hmm. And then the icing on the cake was just crazy. The fact that even after dinner, you guys took us back to the hotel just to say goodbye, which is... Hospitality is crazy, man.
That's a part of hospitality.
It's unbelievable.
The Uzbeks, they pretty known as one of the culture that with good hospitality.
Yeah.
Probably we can proud about it.
You should be proud about it, of course. Yeah.
You should definitely be proud about that. Yeah.
All right. Eric, Josh, 3 things you like. You have been here like 3-4 days already, right? The 3 things you like and dislike in Uzbekistan.
All right. So I don't know. For me, obviously the people. I love the people, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what drew us here in the first place, was our connection to the Uzbek community in the United States is why we're here. This is Josh and I's first time ever coming across the sea. So the food is going to make it very difficult to eat back at home because it's ridiculously good here. And the presentation of everything. Everything is clean. People are, like everything is just in order, pristine. That's the good.
Yeah, I would say I'm trying to take back your stoplight system. The counter on there is amazing. The fact that you tell us you're ready to go, that you're about to stop, we need to take that to America because that's great. I came from a restaurant background. Your guys' restaurants have the most like detail and decoration and everything's so
Special.
so large and special about it. Yeah, and so those have been two things that have been like really stand out. And then obviously, I mean, the people have just been so nice. And I mean, like even the hotel workers are, I've been to a lot of hotels in America. They're not as ready to serve and help and, eager to please. So those have been definitely the positive things from my side.
Yeah. And on that note, I mean, it's from a service aspect, we're so used to paying everybody 20% of whatever the bill is for anything. You go to a kiosk and somebody checks you out, they expect a tip back home, And here it's very weird because you try to tip people like, no, it's too much, or don't do that. And like come on, you helped me out, you service, you took care of me. And there's like, no, like, we take care of you. And it's like,
yeah,
come on, and you start to feel
bartender
bad.
This morning didn't want the tip.
Yeah.
You're like, no, that's too much.
I was like, dude, we just spent $100 and I was like, it's got a tip. And he's just like, oh, it does feel bad. I'm like, oh, so we still left it with him, of course.
Yes,
But
and you saw that how usually $100 is like 1,100,000.
Yeah.
And this if you give him $20 tips, it's around like 200, probably like 10% of the minimum salary here in Uzbekistan.
it's crazy. Well, I pulled out like just at that time was just I guess the $100,000 or 100,000 whatever it is, and gave it to him, and he was like, no, it's too much. And I was like, dude, I would have gave you 2 or 3 like back in America, but like you already made me feel bad about one. And he's just like, no, I can't do that. And so he left. But yeah, it's a different mentality here. The fact that I think everybody says it's in their blood, and I truly believe that. I think that the core of the culture here is it's unbelievable. Like the people, it's very respectful. And a few things that drive me crazy, though, I'll tell you this right now. So I'm a very scheduled person. I like to be on time for everything. And there is Uzbek time I've learned about, which is you can be 20, 30 minutes late, an hour late for everything. And everybody's like, no worries. Like, yeah, this is normal. And I'm like, I got to be on time for this stuff. Like I told them, maybe like, no, it's good. You're good. And I think maybe it's just because traffic's bad. I don't know, but everybody's just very okay with it.
I could say, we got some word here in Uzbekistan. We never say like we will be there in 5-10 minutes. We never say we're gonna be there in 20 minutes. We said Khuda khalasa. It means that we're gonna be soon over there, but we don't know how long it takes. So we never say like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We said we will be there Khuda khalasa.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I hear say, hey, I'll be after 30 minutes. Not at 30 minutes, after. So sometime after that, like the quickest I'm going to be there is this amount of time. I'm like, okay. So it's quite unique, but it's taken some time to get used to. But the driving, me and Josh have
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's
I don't
so
know
aggressive.
It's nuts.
I love there's 2 lanes and there's 4 cars trying to turn in at the same time. I'm like, what is going on here?
That's good. That's good that you guys noticed that, actually.
There's some things that we may try to adopt, but I
drive.
don't think the driving styles around here we should adopt because we'll definitely wreck our cars back home or get shot.
Yeah, but if you remember, I told you that everyone here take care of their cars better than
Unbelievable.
anything. Yeah.
And they're all the same, though.
Yeah.
Everybody drives the same Chevrolet.
Better than their house, actually. Better than their house.
Exactly.
Really?
The car is
Exactly.
better than the house. Trust me.
And Josh, you said about restaurant.
Yeah.
I guess you already tried the plov, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Tell us about your impressions.
I've had it once before in America, but it was nothing like what we had. I don't remember the name of that first place we went when we got here that night, but that was amazing. The lamb kebab was great. I've never had anything that flavorful in one dish like that. It was It was amazing, you know.
All right,
It was definitely
great.
And your
something.
horse meat?
The horse meat. I mean, I'm looking for more of that. That was so flavorful. So
All right.
Oh, did you try, by the way, the horse
yeah.
meat?
Yes, they did.
That's good. That's good.
Last night I got Eric to try a little lamb tongue, so that was pretty intriguing. You know, I'd never seen that before, so had to try it while we were here.
It seemed like the entire mouth of the lamb.
Horse meat is the thing that you need to try once in a life.
Oh yeah, it's great though. Like it was better than expected.
All right, Eric. Most of our viewers, our guests, always asking how usually Americans work with Uzbeks. What did you pay attention whenever you're working with Uzbeks, or some unique like approach to some Uzbek customers? Because I know that the Ditat have been using by a lot of Uzbek trucking companies, right?
Yeah, so I think that, and this is kind of where we kind of have a symbiotic relationship, is that the Uzbek community, as we say, is like, it's copy and paste, as they would say, right? But there's a reason, and it's because if somebody in the Uzbek community trusts somebody, it automatically has a level of trust with everybody else, which is, you know, if you take care of them, they take care of you, and now they're like, oh, they took care of you? And so, you know, from day one when we signed our first customer in the Uzbek community, it was great. You know, of course, like we thought it was amazing to have somebody from another culture. You know, we work with a lot of other cultures as well, but none of them have done what's happened with us there, which is it's just kind of caught like wildfire, you know, and it's company after company. They talk about us. They say, hey, my friend said something, you know, our dispatchers keep talking about you. And, so what we notice is that the more we continue to take care of them and service them, and again, that's kind of the heart of our operation is the service aspect, that they appreciate it, they talk about it, and again, it continues to move through the community. So for us, I think that, you know, from our aspect on working with the Uzbek community, it's been incredibly pleasant. We know that we can trust them, they're reliable, they're easygoing and stuff. But you know, from an American standpoint, as a general rule of thumb, I think people are just starting to understand how big the Uzbek community really is, especially in the United States. And 5 years ago, people that I would talk to about the Uzbek community, they would say, I've never even heard of Uzbekistan, you know. And now we're starting to see people talking about it, the culture, the history, and really completely different perceptions. So hopefully that continues. I mean, I think a lot of people can learn from that community in America, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
All right. And yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, you told me about I mean, like, if we compare, like, Uzbek community the last 5 years, so probably, like, 3 years ago, you didn't know about Uzbekistan and Uzbek people, right? So, and then you told me that someone called you about the Ditat services, TMS, and you asked, are you Uzbek or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Can you retell that story again?
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah, so what's funny about it is, you know, we get a message or we get somebody asking about a demo from us, we'll get some details. They'll tell us, you know, company name, we'll see their MC number and phone number. And then it really takes just a quick lookup, and we see, hey, their MC is in Ohio, they're out of Philadelphia, or they're in Orlando, and then the name is usually like Frank or Beck, or it's something very, you know, it's like very the Americanized version sometimes of the names. And so now when people call, start talking with them, and we mention like, are you by chance, I'll ask them, do you have dispatch in like Tashkent? They'd be like, how did you know? Why'd you guess that? You know, and they're like, well, it's kind of like, it just had a good guess, but I mean, like if it's not there, it could be, you know, a couple other cities. They're like, how did you know we're Uzbek? I'm like, well, it's pretty much copy and paste. Let's, you know, there's a, you know, kind of a pattern, but again, we have a lot of them that reach out to us, but at the same time, it's it's very recognizable. So
yeah, exactly. So I had an experience,
Especially the name.
oh yeah,
yeah. Steve, if you remember when we start working in the logistics and trucking business, like 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So the first thing that we did was to choose the nickname. So my name is Bakhtiyor. I said, what the nickname I can choose? So like I have a last name starting with M. So that's why, I mean, the last 10 years, most of the dispatchers and specialist logistics knows me as a Ben Murray. But in fact, my full name is Bakhtiyor Mukhtar Khojayev. It's difficult to pronounce. The same thing with the Steve. So we're sitting in the office, and just thinking, so we need to assign some nickname for Sunnat, and we're thinking Steve, Sam, what's gonna be better for that?
So Steve, that's not your birth name, Steve?
Imagine me born in Uzbekistan with a passport saying Steve.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, I guess you got a question, right? You're trying to give that question, but we're interrupting you all the time.
Well, my question is actually pretty simple. First of all, I'm really glad that you guys made it to Uzbekistan. And second of all, when I heard that you guys coming, it was a great news for us, because when I first time met with Eric, remember in that restaurant we were sitting and we were talking and chatting, and it was very interesting to have a conversation with professional people. And of course, after you said, why don't we go to Uzbekistan? Because a lot of brokers say that to me when I say, okay, yeah, guys, you're welcome to come back to my country. But when you really when Bashir actually called me, Bashir actually is the owner of the company called VGT Transport. He's our very good partner in Lucid Logistics Academy and Hunt Me Group. He helped us to hire a lot of people. He hires a lot of people from our academy. And when he told me that you actually coming, I called Ben, and Ben said, well, Bashir called me as well. We were so happy that, and when I hear that you had so many experience and great memories from Uzbekistan right now, I'm really feeling happy actually.
And probably that's
the main thing. That's the main thing I wanted to say, to be honest.
Yeah. And I guess this is the great contribution from you guys, because we don't see a lot of tourists from United States of America, especially, mostly from Europe, as I said. And you probably made the first step, probably make it popular in the future.
We'll see.
Like that. Yeah, and we want to see a lot of logistics specialists, not only from software or something like that, probably brokers and some carriers from United States to share to have their experience here, right?
Right. I think that if people got to see the true heart of the community here, they would realize that they want to work with them more, right?
Yeah.
And I think
definitely.
that, when you look at trucking companies and you look at brokerages and you look at what sets them apart, everybody's got trucks, right? Yeah. Everybody's got people. Everybody's got trailers. What sets you apart, right? It's your service. It's the service aspect. Mm-hmm. So if the Uzbek community can offer that service aspect and going above and beyond, I think that that's incredibly important. And if people understand that and they see that, I think that it's going to help that community grow as well in logistics even more. And I think that, like as you said, getting people out here would be incredibly important. Having people see this, feel this, understand it. Is it fun to fly here? It's not that great, but it's a couple steps. But at the same time, is it worth it? From the second we got off, we felt like even if we were just here 2 days, we felt like it was worth it. We're blessed to say we're going to be here for, I guess, a total of 8 days. Mm-hmm. And Steve, to your point though, by the way, was very interesting. Once word spread that we were coming, my phone blew up, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're coming! You're coming!" And I had more people offer to be my driver and everything else, and so we ended up hiring a driver because we were so worried about letting people down or feeling bad that hey, because so many people were offering to pick us up and drive us around, and we had people say, hey, I'm gonna take off work for the week and I'll be your host, and it's amazing because as we talked, we'll offer to pick people up from the airport sometimes, but most people say no, or most people don't want. It's just not part of it. Nobody goes out of their way to do what you guys have all done here. So you yourself were sitting at the airport waiting for us.
That's our pleasure. And I guess you already heard that most Uzbek says guest is more valuable than sometimes his father.
Yeah.
His or her father.
Of course.
Eric, Josh, since our conversation mainly about the trucking business, and this is a really hard time right now for trucking companies, for logistics at all, because of some I guess some economical problem, I don't know. So I would like to know your view, what's going on in trucking business nowadays.
Yeah, so it's like anything else.
Before the Eric answers, Eric, let me add to the Ben. Let me add a couple of things to the Ben words. Actually, it's what's going on right now in the United States. I can tell you this is crazy because right on this, a couple days ago, Signature Bank got bankrupt as well. Before that, you all heard about the Silicon Valley Bank as well. So, and there's also another bank called Silvergate. They also got bankrupt. And there's a couple more, like 5 to 6 banks that planning to get bankrupt. So I can say that, guys, this is something crazy is going on out here. Is because of a lot of people getting back their deposits and the cash out of banks. The market, the economic situation is worse. But interesting that, trucking wasn't affected before that, but now it is actually going better. I can say it's much better. So I would love actually to hear both of yours, Eric and Josh's opinion about what you guys actually think, where this is going, what is going to be. Your opinion, just honest and true.
Yeah. So, Josh, I don't know if you want to talk here now on this one, but
I'll let you start. I'll follow.
All right. So, when you talk about the banks and you talk about where things are going, we look at anything in life has some type of indication of where something's going, right? Mm-hmm. And when you start seeing banks fail, to me, that's a lagging indicator of something that's already happened, right? We are already neck deep into a recession. Everybody knows this part at this point in time. What people need to understand is the fact that this is not new. And when you have competition, you have a lot of competition in anything in life, there has to be some type of natural selection that is going to weed out the competitors. And the people that die first are the ones, and I say people, but the businesses and things, entities, they're going to be the ones that don't have structure, don't have backbone, don't know how to get through these things. They're the ones that are frail, they're sick. They could be young, they could be old, and as in the way I would look at it is you could be old and lacking technology, right? So again, we talk about a sickness, you look at the old and the young, the people that don't have experience, right? So the people that typically survive a sickness are typically the strong, healthy ones that have done this before. They understand it. They understand how to fight it. They understand what's happening at the end. And so if you look at the industry right now, I think a lot of what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of these small companies who are folding up. They're having issues. But, Steve, as you said, we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. Now, how quickly are we going to feel this? How quickly is this going to happen? That's obviously the million-dollar question. And the biggest thing that we have to look at is the fact that we had such an interesting time during COVID with trucking where it tanked really fast and then it blew up. And it's feast or famine, right? But the feast was so long and so many people made a lot of money in the feast. And what happened? Inflation, right? And so that's how things evened out. And here we are, we're fighting inflation. We're fighting this. We're going into famine at this point in time. And I think everybody's scared, and rightfully so, right? I mean, there's, you got to understand this. But the people that understand how these cycles happen, what's going to happen, what's at the end, a lot of these people are rejoicing. As crazy as that is, I know a lot of large fleets. I know a lot of people who are, looking at this as an opportunity and saying, hey, if, that land is unoccupied now because no one owns it anymore, that's an opportunity for me to get it, or it's an opportunity for me to get it cheap, right? And that's going to be what we're going to see with assets. As smaller companies go out, we're going to see, banks having to take over these assets and things are going to get cheaper. Trucks, trailers, right? And right now is, of course, I think it's a great time to build relationships with your brokers, but you need to start looking into the future and thinking, hey, once freight rates start going back up, the important part to think about is how am I going to build relationships with the customers, the direct shippers, and go after this. And because at some point in time, again, it's going to flip. And when it is feast, that is when you go after those because you're going to be able to save them money. No, you may not be making as much money as some people are in the spot market, but then you're ready for the famine next time. And you're ready for when what we're seeing right now is happening. Again, this is nothing new. This has happened before. It's extended longer than some other times, but again, we had such a beautiful feast. So now we're paying the price. And so I'm not nervous about it. I think that, this happens with all kinds of things, whether it's the stock market. I mean, heck, look at anybody who's invested in crypto in the past, right? You see incredible highs and incredible lows. And with anything there's, volatility, the higher the high, the lower the low. So that's my opinion. I think we're Steve, as you said, I think we're coming into a better place now. But I think people got to keep themselves very vigilant about the decisions they're going to make now, and building that foundation as a company, whether that's, the right people, the right relationships, the technology. Look at how you're going to set yourself apart and come out of this shining as if it never hurt, right? And people are going to look at you as a stable company. Hey, they made it through this. They've been around through this. We want to work with those companies, right? And so I think that that's the opportunity that lies ahead. So when people talk about the greatest opportunity, of course, there's the old saying, be fearful when everybody's greedy, be greedy when everybody's fearful. Sounds like a pretty good time to be greedy right now. So.
Yeah, definitely. One of my friends, he's actually a dispatcher. He's working as a dispatcher in one of the trucking companies. He's outsourcing here in Uzbekistan. He started working like 2 years ago, like when the pandemic hits. He said, so probably the 2023 is it's a crisis for trucking business. I said no, because like if we go back to 2019, probably like 2018, we usually run the trucks for $1.80 per mile.
Yeah. And
that was the usual thing. I'm trying to explain that because of the pandemic, the probably 3-4 months shutdown, a lot of, the products, and the shipping was stopped like for 60% all over the United States. So, and they're trying to recover that losses, right? And during that time, that's why those last 2 years, that the 21, 22, the market was good. But right now, we're going back to the stability. So this is like $2.10 per mile. Because of what? Because of the fuel price again. Mm-hmm. And this is the different. The fuel price is a different story. Why it goes up. So that was my point. How I explained to that guy.
Yeah, and I would encourage on that, everybody, be conscious when you're doing your bids and looking to people that have fuel surcharge tables or an ability to say, hey, when there is volatility in fuel, I don't want to have to worry about, am I going to be able to pull this load anymore? And I think a shipper should be conscious of that as well. You know what you need to make in order to run your trucks. And just as you said, I think that when people have a lot, what I've seen happen with a lot of people that made a lot is they took that as an opportunity to buy a lot of things, right? And there's that whole concept of people saying that, hey, you know what, when you've got a lot of extra money to spend, you're not worried about when you walk into the gas station picking up the extra candy bar, picking up something else, right? When you go somewhere and you buy things, you don't worry as much about what you're spending. You're not paying attention to it, right? But when you don't have much money, that's when you start paying attention. And in all reality, if you had been paying attention when you had a lot, you wouldn't have to pay attention when everybody else doesn't, right? And so you really have to find and understand what your foundation is going to be. And as you said, this doesn't feel good for a lot of people, but if you're looking at it from a standpoint of what is coming and the opportunity that comes, just like war, it is terrible, but a lot of production, if you look at especially in America, has come from war. And you have to understand that anytime there's a bloodbath, anytime there's some type of chaos, at the end, somebody's going to find a way to monetize, and they're going to find a way to make money.
Yeah.
And right now is a time to figure it out. And there will be money made, and there will be a massive transfer of wealth. And that is always what happens. That gap becomes bigger between the wealthy and the poor. And figure out how to position yourself on the other side. And the opportunity's there. It's coming. It's here right now. So.
Yeah. Eric, so you said about purchasing something, right? So have the purchasing power been changed somehow in the United States for less than a year, probably?
Yeah, I think you look at interest rates right now, it's a lot of people got so used to low interest rates in the United States. And where do banks make money? They make it from lending money and holding your money and lending that back out. And when no one has money in the bank because they're depleting their resources to stay alive, so the banks don't have technical money to lend out, right? And on top of that, when interest rates become so high, you are now in a position where banks are struggling. So I don't think that there is a near end in sight from that standpoint. I hope so. But we're seeing a lot of people that don't want to purchase homes anymore. We're seeing the real estate market is having a massive pushback for us. The automotive market, I watched a video last night about people being so far upside down on their loans to where, they're purchasing cars from another car, but they're going to be, 20% upside down on the car, not having 20% equity in a car, but they're going into it and getting a loan for more than what the car is worth. And that is a bad sign. And right now, I think there's a lot of data out there that's talked about. It's all over. I've read a lot of the stuff about, the delinquency in credit card payments right now is one of the highest we've ever seen it. The delinquency in automotive loans is one of the highest we've seen in recent history here. And it's a sign that, yes, as you say, the buying power right now it's tough, and your ability to do it. But cash is king in these moments right now. Yeah. And if you have cash, if you have the ability to obtain cash, doing the things that are scary at this point in time, when all of a sudden it's like, hey, nobody else wants to buy a house, but you have the ability to buy a house that's now 30% discount over what it was, or a trailer, or whatever it is, right? 40% discount, whatever that is. You have to realize that you'll probably be able to refinance it at some point in time for a better rate or pay it off, but you're getting a discount at this point in time, and this is the time to start thinking about making maybe a little bit more risky decisions and be more conservative when you have the money. And so it is a tough part. I mean, the whole buying power is our money is not going as far. That's inflation. We talked about the fact that just, feeding a family of 5, I have 3 kids and my wife and I, and if we just want to go to a normal sit-down meal, not fast food, but nothing fancy, it's never under $100 anymore. And a few years ago, it was $40, $50. And restaurants, their margins are less now than they were. They're going out of business. They're not making money. And all of that, again, it is a trickle-down effect from the top down. So, and people are trying to save. Yeah. And that what happens, it puts people out of business. So,
yeah, that's plus let's include the unemployment rate.
Yeah.
How actually people doesn't want to work. Interesting fact that in the United States right now, and a lot of people actually getting their using their cash, using their saving, and they're kind of doesn't want to work. And actually that's very fact that people are not willing to actually cooperate with the companies. But if you go to IT sphere, a lot of IT companies are actually cutting the jobs off. And just let's give an example of Facebook. They cut off 10,000 and they closed off 5,000 vacancies that they have posted at all. So now they're not hiring at all. Interesting that, it means that probably collapse is coming. But, I always say one thing. I always say to the band and all my people in Lucid Logistics Academy, I say one thing. When there's a COVID, when there's a collapse, it's good for trucking. It's always good for trucking. Always. I don't know. I mean, every time I see this kind of situation, I know this will bring good thing to trucking, and companies will grow, employment in trucking will grow, and business itself will grow because people start ordering, moving, transporting stuff from one point to another.
It's a kind of environment that probably we need to accept and survive. So as you said, so with those severe time it's good time to test ourselves, to test our business. So what we doing wrong, what we did wrong before. So and especially this time, regardless pandemic. So who survive in that market? So they will stay strong in the future. Let's say when the market goes up in the near future. And one thing that I want to add to Steve's words, he talked about the Facebook. Just take an example as C.H. Robinson. They, if I'm not mistaken, they fired like 10,000 people like two months ago.
I don't know.
That's not effect only on trucking companies, but the brokerage as well, 3PL companies. Probably this is a time we need to just try to see what we're doing wrong or what we did, and then move on with new plan, with probably some novelties. I could say.
I agree with you. Fully agree with you. Great time to remanage, and that's why, dear listeners, you guys all need TMS system. Here we have DitatTMS. Josh, let's talk about a little bit, and can you please explain a little bit about DitatTMS and say why trucking companies, right now should go and concentrate on how they manage actually operation, and what would you say why they should choose DitatTMS? Please, Josh.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we do well is help plan, organize, and give reports so you can make better decisions, right? I mean, if you don't know how much you're making, how much you're spending, you're never going to know how to manage it, so that ability to have everything in one place, know where your trucks are at, where they're going to be, know where your loads are, and something there to help you kind of bridge that gap to get your trucks where they need to be. That's kind of the big focus that we're doing with it. So, I think that's kind of one of the big parts that we bring with it. From our company, I know my main focus is support. Once we get a customer, it's more important to me to keep that customer, train them, make them happy with this software, because it's easier to keep a friend than to make a new one, right? So those are kind of the big things for me that I've always focused on from our side of things. I know one thing that we do a lot for companies is EDI, which is an electronic data interchange, right? And so it helps those companies get more loads from their customers without taking up the dispatcher's time of entering it. It gets those updates back to those customers, and having that in-house that we can help roll that out for any customer at any time is, kind of a big thing, and that I see that we can do to help. So,
Yeah, I think that, we talked a little about this before too, as well as, when we look at a TMS, it's of course data. I mean, trucking's run on pennies, not on dollars. We're talking about very little margins sometimes, and the opportunities that you have to save money are going to be based upon decisions. Understanding, hey, what are these lanes paying us? What are our margins on them? Okay, we've done really well out of this area, but getting back out is, we're losing everything we had at that point in time. True planning and things like that. But to me, another big piece of a TMS is transparency. If you want to set yourself apart and make sure that your customers are giving you loads, it is, much more than just calling and giving updates these days. They want a live feed. They want to know what's going on, And I don't know how it is here, but, when we're back home, when we have a package from Amazon or something else, we want to know it's out for delivery, but we can open it up sometimes and see that, hey, it's 6 stops away. We have a good idea. And a lot of trucking companies and brokerages, they want more than just a daily update, or sometimes more than a 2-hour update. They want to see tracking that comes every 15 minutes, And if you have a TMS and you're putting your data in, you're going to be able to provide that transparency to them, at least especially the way we have it set up. We can track drivers through our mobile app. We can track drivers through, tracking aggregators through, MacroPoint. We can do, of course, all your ELDs and things like that as well. But being able to feed that data to your customers, through EDI is incredibly important, as well as other things, and we have, customer portals where customers can track their loads and everything else. But, you have to set yourself apart in this market to be able to go after those things. And a TMS, if you're not able to provide some type of technological data to a customer, they're going to eventually figure that out, and they're going to realize that you may not be the person to work with, right?
Yeah.
And, you got a driver who may know the area really well, but, you also have another cab driver that's got GPS. You get in a place they don't know, which one do you want to be with? The guy with GPS or the guy without, right? So you want the person with the edge on technology, and I think that that's important when it comes to trucking companies, is having a better technology than people around you and setting yourself apart.
And unfortunately, I could say most of the small trucking companies owned by Uzbeks, right? So they think that the TMS is not the thing that this is compulsory. So they think they can save money on a TMS. So just they using simple like Excel sheet or something like that. But as you said, there is no transparency on that. You can't gather those information. For example, you have a report of like fuel report. You have like dispatching report. And whenever you're doing a statement for a driver, so you have to take those information from different, I don't know, probably documents from different softwares applications, but in general, we don't have this picture, overall picture.
Right. We actually had this came up in a meeting last night when we talked about payroll, and they were asking about some other customers that we had, and I was texting one of my customers while we were there, and I was asking, how many people do you have in payroll? Like 2 people. How many trucks? 1,000 trucks, right? And, for just the company drivers, which they have, 300-ish, somewhere in there, 400 company drivers, payroll is 30 minutes a week, one person, and it's a very clean and easy process, but doing all that. But why? Because you have everything in one place, you have the technology, so you are saving yourself man hours and stuff. And the example that I always like to use is, if you are an artist or if you're somebody who is dealing with graphics or anything else, you're not going to use Microsoft Paint. Yeah. You're going to use Photoshop. Why? Because you're professional. Yeah. Are you going to use Excel, or are you going to use a robust TMS? Are you professional, or are you just having fun and drawing, right? And I think that's the difference between the two. Our TMS is cheap? No. But, to give an idea of like how broad our product is, I've had a couple demos go 7 hours long, and we continue to talk about the amount of tools that we have in our system. A lot is there, and a lot is there to help you understand your company, understand what market you fit best in, understand your drivers, who to keep, who not to keep, what customers to weed out, and everything else. Who are your best dispatchers? Who are your best planners? Who's the most efficient? Who's sending in paperwork? Are they sending it in on time? All this data can be tracked, and understanding who is providing you the best employment in your company as well.
So it's exactly, it may help you to assess your internal stuff. And
yeah, and a big piece I think sets us apart, and sometimes people are a little bit annoyed with this at first and then they understand it, is we as a TMS, we have a hard stance on forcing good behavior, forcing people to put things in correctly. And it can be annoying when you want to complete a load and in the future. So say a driver is going to be delivering in an hour, but I want to go home for the day. Well, you can't put a future time into our system because that driver hasn't delivered yet. Now, we have a lot of automation features to automatically produce load updates and things like that, send customers updates. We can automate that entire process for you. But all that said is that people will sometimes feel like, hey, I just want to close this load out in the future. I'm sorry, you can't do that. Why? It hasn't happened. And those things are incredibly important for you to look at. It could be a missed opportunity for detention, right? And we have an automated detention piece as well that automates that process too. But if you are not looking at all these details, you're losing out. So by being cheap, it's the same thing as saying, hey, I'm going to go out and buy a early models 2000s truck to pull my stuff across. Are you using a Ford F-150 or a little truck to pull your load across the country? No. Why? You bought the right tool for the job. The right tool for the job was the tractor trailer. It was more efficient. It did what it needed to do. So buy the right tool for the job and understand that there's a reason that tool costs more money, but it will also put more money back in your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with that, with your words. I had a chance to look at the DitatTMS. I saw the demo, and there's some features that's very, very incredible. So, like for example, just Josh, as you explained, I remember you can integrate some other softwares into DitatTMS, right? For example, some are like tracking applications, and it's always compatible with the software itself. For example, let's say you have a drop trailer load. You dropped your trailer at the destination, and the system showed that the trailer was assigned for last trip. And whenever, let's say, that's the usual thing, that someone can steal our trailer, right? in a company. That's the usual practice, and sometimes it happens. And that's cool thing that the DitatTMS can notify you that your trailer was moved out. I saw that, and I thought that DitatTMS is the one of the thing that I need right now. All right, Steve.
Yeah, I can say that's wow. That's wow. Yeah, that's what's your TMS doing comparing to other TMS. And guys, I can just tell you, dear Lucid Talks listeners, this is not just advertising. It is exactly why I admire some people and why I don't use so many softwares that are offered on the market. And interesting that right now on the market itself is there are actually so many TMS systems and more are coming. And interesting, recently I talked with a couple people in trucking business who have been in this industry for a long time. And what they said that a lot of companies actually getting closed and bankrupt because of as Josh said, because of the wrong management, because they do not control how much they're earning, they do not control how much they're spending, and actually they don't have exact numbers of net income. Because of that, actually a lot of companies having a financial bankruptcies because of wrong financial strategies and too much liabilities. Of course, those liabilities were purchased during the high point times, and right now is a very bearish market. And during the bearish market, you gotta stay as low as possible. You gotta cut costs as much as possible. You gotta use effective strategy, and you gotta check your employees' KPI. I don't think a lot of people actually control. And what's actually TMS allows you to is to control how your drivers are working, how they're performing, how they are actually. You can see how much you're paying, how much you're spending on brokers, how much you're spending on particular trucks, and how much you're earning on particular trucks, which is, again, yes, Eric, as you said, that's saving a lot of labor and a lot of time. You're saving a lot of money. I think that's the point why people actually should not keep opening other TMS. As in our Uzbek people say, let the butcher be butcher and let the software guys be software guys. I'm a logistics person, guys. I don't go and, let's say I can go and right now do, I don't know, maybe become a chief accountant. No, I'm not, because I'm not a person for accounting. Well, I'm not gonna go and cook food for in restaurant because I decided to become a chief. No, because actually I love to dispatch. I love to work with drivers. I love to cooperate with people, communicate. I love to communicate. Sales. I love sales and negotiations. But if somebody could come and ask me, hey Steve, are you going to maybe when I'm gonna have like 500 trucks, and I'll say, and somebody comes to me and say, why don't you do your own software that's gonna be comfortable for you? I will say, why would I do something, spend millions on something that actually I have people who can customize the app and who can work with me and spend years and years on upgrading it. So I would say, in order for us to become better, we gotta use worse times and use those times to fix the parts in order to become better. Because right now is a great moment. I myself right now, why I'm in Chicago, because I'm meeting with a lot of vendors who we use services, companies that we use, meeting them face to face in order to tackle issues that we're having. Going back and forth on email, on phone call is not a best way to solve particular issues. It's better to meet, solve, because right now is just times when you have an opportunity to do that, because it's not that much crazy market, it's not that much crazy going on drivers, it's slow. So I would say, according to numbers that we have in trucking, how in 2022 it grown, actually a lot of companies open up and a lot of companies actually close too. So I would say, let's not panic and keep using TMS, huh? You like this, Eric?
Yeah.
You want to use it as a motto?
Yeah.
Generally, what does Steve want to say? Stop saving your budget by sacrificing it with TMS. Use DitatTMS. That wasn't advertisement.
That seemed like an advertisement.
That seemed like an advertisement, yeah. Yeah, and Steve, an interesting thing that you mentioned before too is, we've got a lot of backbone in our company. We are a privately held company by Ivan Demkovich. He owns Ditat, and we are a debt-free company, and our company has ran on cash since day one. We do not have outside investors. We do not outsource. It's all in-house, and we took it a step further. Josh, maybe it was about a year or two ago, and we used to have a 1-year contract, and we took our contract away. Basically, said, "Hey, we're going to do a month-to-month piece, right?" And for us, the reason we did this is we looked at what we were dealing with our customers, and we wanted them to know that we had just as much skin in the game as them. And we said that, hey, we've got to show up, we've got to work hard to maintain our customers just much as they have to trust us. So it goes both ways. And in that unique scenario, where a lot of our competitors are asking for 2, 3, 5-year contracts, with us doing it month to month, we are also particular about who we sign on. So I can assure you, if we think you're a good fit for us, you'll be getting a quote from us, or you'll be hearing we'll say, hey, yeah, we want to work with you. If we don't think you're a good fit for us, and I do tell people this, I say, hey, I think maybe you're, maybe this isn't the right product for you because of this reason or this reason, and we'll be honest. And there's a vetting process for us, because at the same time, if we spend time, resources, and our effort to implement something that isn't going to work for them, maybe it's a mentality, could be whatever it is, we're going to lose money. And we will lose money because we are, again, taking very little up front and a month-to-month product at that point in time. So I think that's kind of what set us apart a little bit, especially from our competitors. Also, we're web-based, open API. There's a lot of big tools that we have that help people set themselves apart. But at the end of the day, Steve, as you said, there are a lot of these guys opening up out there. And I know for a fact, and I'm not going to drop any names because that's not what I do, but there are a good handful of them that are trying to sell against against what we have, that are positioning themselves just to sell. And they are positioning themselves as a software company to sell. And because a lot of people look at the opportunity of building a software and selling that company as a way to make a large amount of money. And the truth is, there is a lot of money in software. But what happens is when a company sells, when they're built with that intention, the intention is not to take care of the customer. The intention is to lock in as many contracts as possible and get them into a point to where they say, hey, we've got you stuck here, we look profitable, and now we have a private investment company that wants to purchase us. We've seen it happen recently with a large competitor of ours, and they're positioning themselves to essentially be sold again or look good to their investors as well. And we're seeing rates continue to increase. We're seeing contracts being renewed at ridiculously long times for people that aren't happy about the product. And we position ourselves a little bit different. So I think that's also another reason I think we've done very well in the Uzbek community, is because of our stance on that and service. So
yeah, definitely. Josh, so since we're talking about Ditat, so I guess you have a lot of requests from the different customers, right? You work with the customer and trying to implement or help them to navigate them within the software. So what is the most request that you currently hear back from your customers? What they requesting much right now?
So everybody wants changes in like reports. They want to see their numbers a little bit different, which we have a stance on that. As long as it makes sense for everybody, we're willing to do kind of any report we need to do for that. If it's something specific for your company, we do it, but we do that as a custom report that would only show up on your system. Other than that, really, people have been asking about some integrations with like the DAT boards and stuff like that, which we're working on, and some things with the mobile app that they'd like to see, updated, added some more features to it, which we have a dedicated person working on that right now, doing some changes to that app. So those have kind of been the most recent things that we've been asked about. A lot of people, like I said, have been adding on more EDI partners and that, but that's just a common day-to-day. Hey, we got a new customer that needs this. let's get that going. So those are kind of the most common things that I'm seeing customers ask about now.
All right. So and
Let's talk about IE. Josh, are you guys right now working, thinking about joining to artificial intelligence strategies or no? Can you answer me this? Yes or no? I'll ask you another question.
Yeah, I don't know that's. I haven't heard anything about trying to go that route just yet. Eric,
I can answer a little bit here.
Interesting. Have you guys heard about Chat GPT? That
Of course.
is actually becoming more and more popular and actually developing so fast that how actually one program can answer any of your questions, right? So interesting. What a lot of, like, I know that Samsara use IE because they have a lot of data analysis system. I don't know if you're willing to cooperate, but I know something that working with artificial intelligence is going to be a number one feature in the future, to be honest. Because in my opinion, because right now how the time and how the lifestyle is changing, it's unbelievable. Yes, we definitely going to see a lot of jobs being cut off because of the IE and this kind of a robot chat GPT system where everything is generated automatically in a couple of seconds. But I can say something that I don't think someone can replace trucking business or dispatchers or software guys, because this is something you gotta do yourself. You gotta sit down and work on it. But I can tell that we have to think about going into that road, going with the data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. What you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, so there, obviously there's I guess the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning are two completely different things. I mean, a lot of stuff could be considered artificial intelligence, right? Where we're talking about a, decision that's being made by something based upon task or information that's been given, and our system already does that in a multitude of ways. So, I mean, by definition, we have quote unquote artificial intelligence, right? What we don't have is machine learning. And I've seen a little bit of it and manifest its ways in certain degrees, but a lot of what we would call machine learning works very well in environments that don't have a lot of basically changing outlining tools, right? And so that could be everything from a driver, right? And again, we can predict a driver to a certain point, but we can't predict everything they're going to do. We can't predict their bad day. We can't predict they decided to stop for long, whatever else. That's one aspect of it, right? We can't predict how other products are going to interchange with our product. And there's going to be yes, I believe that when you talk about machine learning and you talk about utilizing that as a way of the future, I think there's a time and a place for it, and I think we'll see it. And I think that the people that can do it, of course, they're going to be the ones that change the world and make the money. I always say that about everything that, the most wealthy people in the world are the ones that change the way that we do things.
Exactly.
And nobody thought that we would have a full computer in our hand 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And nobody thought that we would have a better camera on our phone than what most photographers used 5 years ago, right? And we have it, and it's there, it's in our pocket everywhere, And when people change the world and they change the way we do things, they will always make the most money. And that's why you look at Elon Musk, that's why you look at Jeff Bezos and all these guys. They've changed the way that we operate as human beings. So the people that figure out, I think, Steve, you have a great point here. We talk about if we can dramatically change the environment in which people are working in trucking through technology, it is, it will be the next step. However, all that being said, this is probably one of the slowest adopting industries out there for technology. And I say it because, we still have people that talk about drivers having flip phones, and I don't believe that's, maybe they have a flip phone, but these guys are watching YouTube or whatever else, they still got their stuff, right? But if it had not been for ELD mandate, we would still have plenty of companies out there doing paper logs. And if it had not been for that mandate on the trucks and having that, everything built in, we would still have guys running older trucks. And that's where we saw basically forced adoption of technology. But until stuff is forced, EDI is an incredibly old concept, but everybody is still using it. And so adopting these things, I don't know if you guys saw this in the news just recently, but up in Pittsburgh, there's a company called Locomotion, I believe it is. And their entire piece was to kind of do these basically automation in the self-driving trucks, right? But they were doing this like tandem type
I
version.
heard about it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'd have one truck following the other. And the technology seemed cool. They spent a lot of money, and they just fired everybody and closed their doors. I guess it was a week or two ago. And this was supposed to be a huge tool in our industry and what everybody thought was going to be, the next big thing. And the problem is a lot of people are dumping money into these things and they're running out of money. And so
Exactly.
I think a lot.
Eric, let
adoption.
me add something. Exactly. You see, you coming back to the thing that let the butcher be butcher and software guy be software guys.
Yeah. I like it.
That, you know what I'm saying? Like, why those Pittsburgh guys don't keep doing what they were doing and keeping their cash flow on their account for this kind of collapse, bankrupt days when they will be running out of cash flow, or keep their credit limit higher on the American Express Platinum, maybe. Like I do.
Exactly.
But I can say one thing. Look, very good point. Thanks, Eric. Especially, thanks for talking about automatic trucking. A lot of people, especially students, ask me, "Hey, Steve, do you think drones is gonna work? Hey, do you think drivers will go out the order and everybody will switch over to automatic trucks? Do you think dispatcher will go?" No, never. It will always be human based. Trucking has different name. Synonym says human based business. It depends on human. Without those guys, you cannot do trucking. Without hand job, without person actually handfully doing their job and coming and doing trucking, you won't be able to do anything. Without a dispatcher, you won't be able to connect the psychology of the broker who is actually had a bad day or didn't drink his coffee, and you won't be able to talk with the driver who actually being connected to dispatcher. Dispatcher is kind of a calm, I call them a calm pillow. The pillow that takes everything to itself at the end becomes so old that switches over to something else.
Yeah, that's you're right. One of I'll add on, going back to the trucks, right? You said about Elon Musk. One of my dispatcher in my company said he just approached me and said, "Hey, Elon Musk release first electric truck. What's gonna be tomorrow with the dispatchers? You're gonna fire me in 2 years?" So that's about like probably 20-30 years. Probably gonna be retired that time.
Right.
So but still technology, especially TMS, DitatTMS as well. I guess it's a requirement of modern world. This is the thing that you can't avoid at all.
Right.
Anyway, so for example, even small companies, I know that there's a lot of Uzbek trucking companies, like with 4 or 5 trucks, right? So probably they can still use, for example, let's say Excel sheet, right? But they still wanted to integrate like GPS tracking. They put the GPS tracking on their trailers. And then, so this is the kind of a step to digitalize their data and their work as well, the operation. And I'm pretty happy that DitatTMS also contributing their effort to help other carriers and Uzbek community as well to digitalize those data and operation. I guess that's a great opportunity for them.
Yeah. And I think that when you look at every piece of technology that you can do to set yourself apart from your competitors is incredibly important. But at the same time, it's not something that you can say, "Hey, I'm going to be cheap." Like, no, you're going to be left behind is what it is. And if your drivers today were, I don't know if you guys had pagers or if you're familiar with what a pager is.
Oh, we used to utilize like 5-6 years ago.
Oh, still?
Yeah.
The beepers, like where you page somebody on,
My dad used to utilize pager like 3-4 years ago.
Wow. Okay, well,
We're
But
still
we
getting
still
hit on
have
the hip then.
those
Wow.
guys who use flip flop. That's this is like kind of I don't know what could say. Why we use flip flop sometimes? Some like 18, 19 years old young guys still using flip flops, but I don't know for what.
I have flip flops in the hotel.
They have iPhone on one hand and they still have a flip flop on it. I don't know why.
yeah. Well, I think that if you look at pagers, you can't dispatch a truck on a pager, right? That used to be the thing.
Oh really?
Oh, back in the day, of course. That's how you tell a
I
driver
didn't
to
know
pull
about
over.
it.
Back in the day, of course, yeah. That's how hey, you get your page, you need to, that means next time you get hit to a truck station, you need to go find a phone and call back into dispatch.
Yeah, I read in Wikipedia that mostly like most of the carriers right now using DAT as a main load board, right, where they can find loads to move. Like in Wikipedia, I read that like 40 years ago, like 30, 40 years ago, actually the DAT was on a truck stop. So the drivers, the dispatchers and drivers usually go to the truck stop, and local shippers in that area, they come to the truck stop and post their loads, and you need to call them.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, that was like primary version of DAT or any other load boards.
Wow.
So 30 years, 40 years passed, and now we do it online.
Now we got to figure out what we need to do in 30 years from now.
Probably 30 years. DitatTMS will dispatch driver by themselves. I mean the
whole system by
automatically.
itself.
Yeah, just
And you
you
sit
just
back.
click the enter and that's it. So the dispatch will be sent. Josh, question about again. You mostly work with the customers and trying to help them to implement something, right?
Yep.
So is it any obstacles, for example, to integrate or implement other software's API to the DitatTMS? For example, let's say you work with Samsara, right? You work with QuickBooks or other softwares. What about, for example, let's say that if you have a customer who want to add some other specific software integrate to the DitatTMS, whether data is open to cooperate with other software.
Yeah, so I mean, we're an open API software. So what that means is anything you can do in our TMS, you can do through our API, because we literally wrote the software on using our own APIs. So it's there, it's available. We look at it as if DitatTMS is going to do something with an API, it has to be usable for many people. And so we keep coming back to kind of a reoccurring question that a lot of customers say, oh, API, great. I want my customer to track their loads through an API. And it's just not a feasible, realistic way to do it, because with an API, you're basically giving them access to everything. So if you can track my loads as customer A, you can also track customer B, C, D, and E's loads. And that's why we kind of lead people towards EDI, because it's a proven thing. And you give us a load and we just keep you up to date with that load, and it's a quick transfer of data back and forth. But yeah, I mean, as far as the API, if you have developers that can write the code, you could do pretty much anything with the software. We as a company use it and add developments on all the time. We started with, one factoring company, and now we've got 5 or 6 that we, integrate with and are often adding more. So yeah, I mean, adding things on, integrations, it's something that we add and change all the time.
And so DitatTMS is one of the TMS that's becoming popular right now, especially among the Uzbek community as well. What we should expect in near 5 years? What the DitatTMS will looks like in the future? What do you think, Eric, Josh? I mean, that you have a plan of integration, something, right? You're trying to digitalize as much as processes as you can. So what do you think? What gonna be how the DitatTMS will looks like in near future?
I mean, so this is a tricky one here, because we really don't want to talk a whole lot about a couple things that are coming down the pipeline.
Oh,
but
you
we've got-
sell loads like DAT?
So, again, we don't want to talk about everything we got coming down the pipeline. We're working on some pretty massive developments right now. Things that we have not seen in any TMS ever, right? So some things that we've got some pretty unique pieces. Those are things we really don't want to talk about just yet, but we'll get there. And once it comes there, we'd love to hop on another podcast to release those features and tell people about them. As for the product itself and changes, we update our system every week. So we're always making changes to reports, integrations, tools in the system. And so I know that there are a lot of big changes that we have coming in the very, very near future. We're doing we did that big structural change, which is that open API piece, and for our larger fleets, they love it because they can create tools. The guys that were building their own TMS, a lot of those guys, they bought our software because they said, hey, well, we know we've got guys, how we just build tools to build on your system that make us unique, our own tools and stuff. And we're seeing that. But, as for some of the other things coming up, we're doing a facelift to our system. So it's going to get an even newer, kind of more modernized look at that's coming out soon. We've got a new fully customizable dashboard that's going to be released here shortly. So people will be able to create their own charts, graphs, widgets, and things like that to be able to see data very quickly on the fly. And I think we're in a day and age where people want to digest data as fast as possible. I don't know if you had a chance of listening to the Joe Rogan and Elon Musk podcast when he talked about.
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, I didn't.
and he talked about, one of the things I thought was very interesting was the biggest throttle or funnel, I would say, to information into a human being right now is our fingers. It's how fast we can type on a phone, right? Visually, we can consume a lot of information, but your brain can handle a lot. And the faster that you can give people the information they need, and we are in an age where people want everything now, and they want to see it, they want to know the answers, and we understand that. And we understand that, we have our own little charts and graphs right now, but it may not be what you need for your company. So we're making it fully customizable to you'll be able to put in all kinds of details and create your own customized details and data metrics in the system so that very quickly you can see anything you want to see and digest that data very quickly. So to us, we think that's pretty important. That's coming out soon. Like I said, we got a couple other big things that are coming around the corner. We have our low board integrations. We're working on all those right now as well. The unique piece about that is, from a planning aspect, is we have a really, and I think you've seen this, Ben, our planning tool is very unique in the industry, and integrating that with planning boards will really take it to a next level for what people are able to use integrations for planning boards. And so we think that's going to be kind of a big piece as well. So, but yeah, stay tuned for some of the other big updates that we'll have coming out soon because
we definitely do.
There's some pretty cool things coming. So
yeah, and I mean, one thing that we're weeks away from having, and it's kind of going back to Steve's automation thing, is our automated detention. It's basically gonna find those detentions and run that whole process without a dispatcher having to be involved.
That's awesome.
So I mean, it's accepted at the end once it's ready to do, right? So that piece is there and kind of relates back to what he's asking about with the
Excel detention is one of the biggest headache of most of the dispatchers.
Well, yeah, and I mean it's one of those revenue sources that isn't being captured because you're not able to give the advance warning that and
Exactly.
If you miss any one little piece, you're not getting it. And so we have so many customers that when we're asking, "Who are you doing it?" No, it's just too big of a headache. It's not worth our time. Well, it should be worth your time, And then we were beta testing it with some customers and sent out that automated email, and you're instantly getting feedback. We're on it. We're moving that truck right now. Who would have known? That truck could be sitting there for hours. But since they know that, we're actually going to be paying the attention on it now. That's really the thing. I mean, you either want your truck moving or capturing the money for it not. So, that piece should be huge and helpful for everybody. So,
Yeah, that's great. Steve?
Yeah, I would say, if you would add the tension, tonal, lumper fees problem, man, I would probably move those guys who does update to more dispatch and start booking more loads and, actually have less headache, to be honest, because The detention and the Lampard and Tono considered one of the most lost financials that a lot of companies lose actually because of sometimes they have to pay the driver because they are company drivers or they have contract on dealing, getting paid no matter if broker pays or not. Or sometimes there's a situations when actually customers, because of the fault of customer, they don't pay the broker doesn't pay, and you have to go back and forth, email. If you will make this automated email, I think the process will go really smooth, and it will make a great solution for that.
And actually, that
Coming
that
back-
can be a
Yeah.
reason why a lot of truck drivers, sometimes drivers can leave the company because of this. They didn't get any extra charges, right? No detention, no layover. So that can be a reason why the drivers not happy with that company where they're working.
Right.
Yeah, Steve, go on.
So basically, we talked about a lot of things. I wanted to ask about something, guys. So you probably have other nationalities that you're working with too. So can you tell me three futures why you actually like working with Uzbek people, and what three futures you would like to input in this podcast so our listeners of Lucid Talks can actually spread this information and kind of work on their type of work, because I know Uzbek American relationship is growing really good,
Good
especially
question.
in trucking business is going up and up every year. Yes, of course, ups and downs, as I said the other day to Eric, people are complaining about logistics, but they're still here, but they're still here, they're still working. Yes, why? Because they love this money, they love this process, they love how they can learn fast and how they can grow fast. Actually, you have to work for 10 years in a bank in order to become a department head of department, while here you can work for 10 years and become an owner of a company or maybe a CEO of a huge corporation. So can you tell me three futures that you like while you work on it, and three things that you actually would like to would like us as a nation, as a people who work with you, to work on it? Because I think our listeners will love to know that.
Yeah, I mean, so I do training with tons of customers, and so they're always very nice, very outgoing, very eager to learn. So that's obviously a great thing, and very appreciative of when things are done for them. We add a feature, and they're the first ones to reply back with an email. Thank you. We have some customers that I think they get paid by the email because they're just, anytime you say something, there's an automatic response back. I'm like, this is amazing, because most of our customers don't communicate. It's, I need this done, into conversation, right? So those are nice things that I always appreciate. One thing that we've seen a lot, especially with trainings, is we set up a training schedule to, hey, training's going to start at 2:00, and about 2:10 we get our first person on the call, and 20 minutes later they're like, okay, let's get ready to start. So that's kind of hard for us because we try to schedule trainings back to back, and we're like, all right, you now have an hour instead of 2 hours, right? So that would be one thing that's kind of,
Again, as I said, there's theory of the word Khuda khalasa.
Yeah, with God willing.
yeah. So I mean, I think from my side, that's the only big complaint I've ever had. Is just like, man, why can't we start on time?
What about you, Eric? What about you? What's the three things you would like to address for our nation before we end the Lucid Talk podcast? Say what exactly we need to do in order to make things better with you as a company, as a TMS, and as of course with the trucking. What would you address? And you guys, you should feel free to say that, because I call it a constructive critics.
Mm-hmm.
When your real partners tell you a constructive critics in order to become effective, in order to become beneficial, in order to become much more honest, this brings a lot of good things into relationship and helps, of course, both sides. Us as an outsourcing team back in our country, and our people in United States who are also working with you directly, and with Americans, because that will help to create a huge bridge. Let's create this huge I love the London Bridge. I will give the example of London Bridge because it's much more concrete there.
Yeah. So, I think you already know the good. I think I've mentioned this quite a bit about working with you guys. There's a huge level of trust. There are quite a few Uzbeks in the community that I feel like are much more than just even a friend at this point in time. People that I trust, people that I confide in, people that I have, conversations outside of work, right? But when it comes down to the one thing that I think, this is probably not a very popular belief for you guys, maybe it is, we love stability in our customers, right? And what we love to see is when our customers are growing, because if they're growing, we're making money, right? And a lot of Uzbek companies grow. However, and again, please take this lightly as I'm not trying to say anything poorly, but I think there are sometimes some very short-sighted decisions that get made in the companies that we're working with, and there are several times where we will try to give some advice, and people will hold back, and then a lot of the advice that I gave people over the past few years, people are kicking themselves because here they are, they're hurt, things aren't going well. One of those being the biggest thing that I mean to bring up here is everybody's going after the same freight, right? And so everybody went after Amazon, and we all know kind of how that all originated in the Uzbek community and everything. And when you put all your eggs in one basket, it is, you live by it, you die by it. And for us to have a stable customer, we don't want to see, hey, we've got a customer who has all their eggs in one basket, they lose it, and guess what? Because they go out of business, we lose our money too, right? And so we want our customers, that's a big piece about us, is we want our customers to be profitable. We want our customers to make money. And my advice has been for years to people in the community, and some have taken it and some have just kind of said, hey, whatever, but if you can get away from the load boards and build a good foundation, you'll never completely get away from load boards. But wouldn't you love to be the person that's posting to the load boards instead of the person who's drawing from the load boards? Because now you're the in-between party, right? You're in control. And when we see people say, hey, yeah, 60%, 70%, 80% of our customer freight is Amazon, it's FedEx, it's this, right? We know that they're one decision away from losing 30% of their business, 40% of their business. And I've seen it multiple times. And I hate that panic call. I hate it because I've had plenty of them where somebody says, hey man, I just lost a bunch of lanes. Can you help me find something else? And of course, I do my best. I do have a lot of connections and stuff like that, but there's a world of people out there that are going after those same things. But at the same time, if I had to paint the one piece is that, again, we love stability and we would love to see the community in the Uzbek community in trucking to not just do copy and paste when it comes to the freight they're going after.
Yes.
To understand that there's a big world of customers out there and there's a lot of opportunity and it isn't just Amazon. And we saw this, and this is what I told the people, 2-3 years ago. I said, people used to deliver my packages to my house in their own cars. People would drive up in their car, deliver your package. Josh, I'm sure the same thing for you. And they were hired by Amazon. Well, guess what? I tell people all the time, where did those things go? Amazon bought their own trucks, and they got rid of all those people. So all those people who had those jobs, who were delivering packages on their own cars, they're no longer doing that, right? And if you don't think that Amazon is going to do the exact same thing when they have the resources, they have airplanes, they have trailers.
Exactly.
They're working on getting the trucks. They will replace you, right? Because you're an added cost. And if you're making more money from them than what the market dictates, they see that. And they are looking to cut those costs. And they will cut those costs. So, again, diversify.
And it's happening right now.
Absolutely, yeah. Diversify yourself. Try to, don't put it more than 20% if you can into, to one place, 30%. If you get a great opportunity and you build a relationship with a solid customer freight, of course, I've seen some customers do incredible with that. But diversify. Go out there, find yourself an opportunity with customer freight if you can, and don't live by, and I understand that the spot market, people think that's diversified because they're pulling freight from technically different customers, but it's just like anything else. When the spot market goes up, yeah, you make up. When the spot market goes down, everything goes down.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same. So that's my biggest complaint, that I think that a lot of people are slightly short-sighted, and they want to taste what they have right then and not worry about what they're going to eat in a year or 2 years or 3 years.
And you just took that word from my soul, because I'm on the same page. Some trucking companies ridiculously depends on Amazon, ridiculously. So like,
Not only depends, but I would say created on based on
yeah,
Amazon.
they open the company to work for Amazon. That, for example, if something happens, for example, like if performance goes down, so, and the load board will be suspended, for example, what they doing? They open another company, they open up another MC, and then move that truck to that MC. And I know that several trucking company owners that change the company like 5-6 times. They have like several companies, they moving truck from one MC to another. And for example, again, we could say Steve and me, as a part of Lucid Logistics Academy, we can admit that most of the dispatchers here in Uzbekistan think, like 92-93% of dispatchers think that we can work with the shippers directly. They thought that we must have brokerage MC, we need to register brokerage MC, and then work with the shippers. That's ridiculous. So the one of the I guess aim of Lucid Logistics Academy is to change the mindset of logistics specialists here in Uzbekistan, because they think very narrow. They way of thinking is very narrow. So probably that's thanks for that podcast, they can change the mindset probably. So yeah, but Steve and me, you completely competent on that question as well.
Yeah, that's great, guys, that you actually saying what exactly it is about. To be honest, this is real truth. I know a lot of people in comment section, or maybe when they're gonna send this podcast to each other, they're gonna criticize the truths that we're bringing here. And actually, the main goal of this podcast, we'll be doing more back and forth. We will be doing the live podcast from United States. We'll be doing live from Uzbekistan with different people. And the main goal is actually show that there are particular things that you gotta avoid. Yes, maybe you can open a company, do business with Amazon, but you have to build a stable, a trucking company where you can work with real customers. And they are out there, a lot of people. Let's say you are producing, let's say those snapbacks, right? You are going to move them from one state to another. So they are out there. Our goal as a trucking company is to find them. And the goal of Lucid Logistics Academy is to teach people that there is a particular things you gotta do in business, and there's a particular things you gotta better avoid. That's why we're always on our training sessions. What we do, we don't teach that much Amazon. Why? Is because we don't want people to get attached. We teach them how to talk, how to email customers, how to become a real dispatcher. And I agree. And thanks, Eric. That's the great advice to broadcast this vision of not depending on one thing and not putting on all eggs in one bag. It is true, and I've seen it a lot, and especially you probably see that right now. How actually companies, getting smaller and coming to you saying, "Hey, Eric, I would need to take my down payment, or I would need to decrease my membership, or I would need to do this, I would need to do that, because I don't have that much truck." Because from the beginning they started too big. You gotta go slowly. How Russians say it. Moscow wasn't built in one day.
Steve, if you don't have any questions, so I guess it's a time to finalize our podcast, right?
Definitely, I want to, before my battery goes out, I would want to thank you, Eric and Josh. I appreciate you guys coming.
Yeah, again, I'm saying don't save your money by sacrificing any TMS. That's stupid thing. That's stupid thing. All right. Thank you very much, Steve. Eric, Josh, thank you very much for being a part of our podcast. This is our first podcast, but we had very constructive discussion here. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have a lot of viewers, right? And so for our guests and viewers, we could say wish us good luck because it's a new project and we keep on doing this, hopefully every month, maybe more. I'm not sure. And then if you want to get more information about Lucid Logistics and hunt me, so follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and other social medias. For the future podcasts, you can just put the YouTube on a ring, follow us on YouTube, and we will let you know about future podcasts through other social medias as well. Thank you very much, and thank you for tuning into Lucid Talks. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. It's awesome.
I guess it's time to go to the restaurant and get some club, right? Again, as I said, like going to the restaurant and have club is a daily basis.
Yep.
Okay.